Most Christians have two reactions to the book of Revelation. Either they're obsessed with it or they quietly avoid it. It's full of beasts, dragons, lampstands, scrolls, trumpets, and plagues. It can feel like stepping into someone else's dream. In the veil of prophecy, I argue that Revelation is strange for a reason, and that its strangeness is actually one of its greatest strengths. In this episode, we're going to talk about why Revelation looks so weird and why you should still read it. First, Revelation is written in symbols on purpose. It's kind of a writing we often call apocalyptic. That means it uses vivid images and symbols, pulls back the curtain on what's really going on, shows the spiritual meaning behind political and social events. The point of the imagery is not to create a secret code for a few insiders. The point is to wake us up. When John sees beasts and dragons and monsters, he's not just describing future headlines. He's showing us what evil and idolatry looks like from God's perspective. In the veil of prophecy, I make this case. Revelation cares deeply about moral reality. It cares about how power is used and abused, how empires seduce people away from God, how human beings compromise with evil, and how God holds the world accountable. It's not just saying, here's the exact date of the end. It's saying, here's what the world looks like when it turns away from God, and here's what God will do about it. Revelation is a book about truth, justice, and the final outcome of good and evil. We also need to remember how the book begins. It's addressed to seven real churches in Asia Minor, ordinary communities with compromise, suffering, false teaching, and constant pressure from the surrounding culture. Revelation is not written from a secret club 2,000 years in the future. It's written for struggling believers who need warning, encouragement, and a bigger vision of Christ. If those first Christians could understand it enough to be blessed by it, so can we. So yes, Revelation is strange, but it's strange on purpose. It speaks in symbols to help us see the world the way God sees it. Honestly, morally, and with the end in view. In the next episode, we'll ask, what is the primary purpose of Revelation? Is it mainly about predicting dates or something deeper? I'm Sean Armstrong. See you in episode 2. If you ask many people about what Revelation is about, they'll say things like the end times, the Antichrist, the mark of the beast. In the veil of prophecy, I argue that Revelation is about something bigger and deeper than prediction charts. In this episode, we'll talk about the book's central purpose. First, Revelation is written to Christians who are under pressure. They are marginalized, threatened, tempted to compromise, and sometimes actively persecuted. The book shows them the risen Christ walking among his churches, their suffering seen and remembered, and a promised future where justice is done and tears are wiped away. Its primary purpose is to say, no matter how dark it looks, God has not lost control. The Lamb has already won. Second, Revelation is a warning. It tells the truth about human cruelty, idolatry, corruption, economic injustice, religious hypocrisy. It shows us that God is patient but not indifferent. Evil systems and empires do not last forever. There will be a day when God says, this is far and no farther. This warning is not meant to make believers smug. It's meant to make everyone sober. At its heart, Revelation is about victory, not the victory of Rome or any other empire, not the victory of violence or manipulation, but the victory of God and the Lamb. The Lamb who was slain is the one who opens the scroll, judges evil, and brings in the new creation. Revelation says the world's story does not end in chaos. It ends with Christ. That is its primary purpose, to ground believers in hopeful realism. We see the horror of evil, but we also see the sure victory of God. So Revelation is not just a puzzle to solve. It's a book that offers hope, delivers warnings, and announces the triumph of God and the Lamb. In the next episode, we'll zoom in on one of the most important scenes in the whole book: the scroll, the Lamb, and the throne. I'm Sean Armstrong. See you in episode 3. In the veil of prophecy, I spend time on one of the most powerful images in Revelation. A throne in heaven, a scroll in God's hand, and a Lamb who alone is worthy to open it. This scene is the heartbeat of the book. John sees a throne, the one seated on it, and a scroll in his right hand, sealed. The scroll symbolizes God's plan for judgment and salvation, God's sovereign purpose for history, God's right to bring the story of the world to its appointed end. The problem is, no one in heaven or on earth is found worthy to open it. John weeps because if the scroll stays closed, evil goes unjudged and hope goes unfulfilled. Then John hears about the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, the one who was conquered, but when he looks, he doesn't see a roaring lion, he sees a lamb, standing as though it had been slain. The victory of God is real, but it looks like sacrificial love. The power that opens the scroll is not brute force. It is the authority of the crucified and risen Christ. Heaven erupts in worship. The Lamb is worthy to take the scroll. He is worthy to open its seals. Why? Because he was slain, and by his blood he ransomed people for God from every tribe and tongue and nation. In the veil of prophecy, I emphasize this. Revelation's view of politics, history, judgment, and hope, all on the Lamb. The throne is not empty, and the one at the bears the wounds. The one at the cross bears the wounds. This scene tells us God is sovereign. History is not out of control. Jesus is not just a teacher. He is the of God's rule, and the cross is not a side note. He is the very basis of Christ's authority. When we worry about the future, Revelation points us back here. Look at the throne, look at the scroll, look at the Lamb. If the Lamb and the throne show us who wins, the beast and Babylon show us what we're up against. In the next episode, we'll talk about beasts, Babylon, and the powers that shape our world. Not as code for one politician, but as a diagnosis of human empires. I'm Sean Armstrong. See you in episode 4. Few parts of Revelation generate more heat than the beasts and Babylon. In the veil of prophecy, I argue that these images aren't just about one future dictator or one country. They reveal how power and idolatry work in every age. Let's take a closer look. Revelation's beasts come from the sea or the earth, blend animal features and blasphemous claims, demand loyalty and worship. These images echo earlier biblical visions, especially in Daniel. The point is not to create a monster for horror art. The point is to show that when human power tries to be godlike, it becomes beast-like. Whenever states claim absolute loyalty, leaders demand worship. Systems crush people for gain. You're seeing something beastly from God's perspective. Babylon in Revelation is the glittering city of seduction. It is wealthy, luxurious, and impressive. It grows rich through exploitation. It is drunk on the blood of the saints and the oppressed. Babylon is more than one ancient city. It's a symbol of any civilization that glorifies wealth above justice, treats people as commodities, uses religion and attainment to cover injustice. Revelation is saying, don't be dazzled by Babylon's lights. Look underneath. In the veil of prophecy, I push against the habit of reducing these images to which politician is the beast, which country is Babylon right now. Instead, ask different questions. Where do I see power demanding worship? Where do I see economic systems built on exploitation? Where am I tempted to align myself with that is beastly or Babylonian in my own culture? Revelation gives us a pattern for recognizing idolatrous power, not just a label for one single person or a place. Revelation doesn't just diagnose, it calls, "Come out of her, my people." Don't give your heart, your worship, or your hope to Babylon. Don't let the beast define your identity. The question is not only, who is the beast? The question is also, Where do I already live like the beast is my Lord? After all, the beasts in Babylon, Revelation ends not in rubble, but in renewal. In the next episode, we'll look at the final vision, a new heaven, a new earth, and God dwelling with his people. I'm Sean Armstrong. See you in episode 5. The last pages of Revelation are some of the most beautiful in all of Scripture. In the Veil of Prophecy, I emphasize that the end of the Bible is not about escape from earth, but about renewal. Let's walk through that vision. John sees a new heaven and a new earth, the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from God, and God dwelling with his people. This is not just we go up, it's also heaven comes down. God does not abandon his creation. He restores it. In this vision, God wipes away every tear from every eye. Death, mourning, crying, and pain are gone. The leaves of the tree of life are for the healing of the nations. That means suffering is remembered but healed. Injustice is judged, and wrongs are set right. The divisions between peoples are overcome in God's presence. This is the world as it was meant to be, finally realized. The loud voice in Revelation's climax announces God's dwelling is with human beings. They will be his people. He will be with them as their God. In the Veil of Prophecy, I describe this as the fulfillment of the whole biblical story. Eden's lost presence restored, the tabernacle and temple brought to completion. God is with us, Emmanuel, made visible forever. The goal of salvation is communion, not just acquittal. Knowing that God's end is renewal changes how we live now. It encourages us to care about creation today. It motivates us to pursue justice and healing today. It reminds us that our labor in the Lord is not in vain. Revelation's final vision is not meant to make us passive, just waiting for rescue. It's meant to make us faithful because we know where the story is headed. If Revelation ends with renewal, the question becomes, how do we read everything that leads up to that? In the next episode, we'll talk about the 4 major approaches to Revelation: preterist, futurist, historicist, and idealist, and how each one can teach us something. I'm Sean Armstrong. See you in episode 6. One reason Christians fight about Revelation is that they're actually reading it through different lenses, often without realizing it. In the Veil of Prophecy, I walk through 4 major approaches: preterist, futurist, historicist, idealist. Each has strengths, each has blind spots. Let's take them one at a time. First, the preterist view. Preterists focus on the past, especially the first century context. They see many events in Revelation as referring to early church struggles. The Roman Empire, persecutions, and crises of that time. Their strength is this: they take seriously the original readers and their situation. The risk is they can make the book feel too finished, as if it has nothing left to say about the future. Now, the futurist view, futurists focus on the end times still to come. They see many events as literal future fulfillments just before Christ's return. Their strength is they emphasize that Christ will return and that history is headed somewhere. The risk is they can turn Revelation into a detailed prediction chart or encourage constant date setting. Next, the historicist approach. Historicists focus on the whole sweep of church history. They read Revelation as a kind of timeline from the early church to the end, with symbols matching different eras, empires, or church events. Their strength is they remind us that God cares about the long story of the church. The risk is it can become speculative, trying to match every symbol to specific events in hindsight. Finally, the idealist approach. Idealists focus on timeless spiritual realities. They see Revelation as symbolically describing the ongoing conflict between God and evil, Christ and the powers, the church and the world. Their strength is they emphasize that Revelation speaks to every age, not just the first century or the last generation. The risk is they can flatten out specific historical references and underplay future fulfillment. In the veil of prophecy, I encourage a humble approach. Let each lens teach you something. The preterist reminds us this book meant something real to its first readers. The futurists remind us the story is heading toward a real return of Christ. The historicists remind us God is at work through all the ages of church history. The idealist reminds us the symbols show ongoing patterns of evil and faithfulness. You don't have to pick one and despise the others. You can let each one highlight something true. The danger is not having a view. The danger is acting as if your view is the only faithful one. So be clear about what is central. Christ, the Lamb, the call to faithfulness, the reality of judgment and hope. Be cautious about turning every symbol into a certainty. Be charitable with other Christians who read the book differently. Revelation is meant to make us worship, not just argue. So we've talked about how to read Revelation. In the final episode of this module, we'll talk about how to live in light of it, what I call ethics in the shadow of Revelation. I'm Sean Armstrong. See you in episode 7. If we've understood Revelation at all, it should change how we live. In the veil of prophecy, I talk about ethics in the shadow of Revelation, the way this book should shape our choices, not just our charts. Let's talk about what that looks like. Revelation calls churches to be a very specific kind of faithfulness. It calls us to resist idolatry, refuse to worship the beast, come out of Babylon's corrupt systems. Ethically, that means we don't give our ultimate loyalty to any nation, party, or market. We refuse to bow when power demands what belongs to God alone. We're willing to be weird, marginalized, or misunderstood for Christ's sake. Revelation doesn't just predict persecution, it prepares us for costly faithfulness. Throughout Revelation, heaven is filled with worship, holy, 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 worthy is the Lamb, songs of victory and praise. In a world where beasts and Babylons demand our attention and devotion, worship is resistance. When we gather and say, Jesus is Lord, yours is the kingdom, we are quietly telling every empire, you're not ultimate. That shapes our ethics. We treat people as those loved by God, not as tools of the state or the market. We value truth over propaganda, mercy over cruelty. Revelation's scenes of judgment are not there to make us vengeful. They are there to remind us God cares about victims. God does not ignore oppression forever. God will set things right, because God is the final judge. We can pursue justice now without being consumed by hatred. We can protest evil without pretending we are perfectly righteous. We know that our efforts are part of a bigger story, not the whole story. Finally, Revelation gives us hope, a future where the Lamb reigns openly, a world made new, a place where tears are wiped away. Hope is not escapism. It's fuel. It gives us strength to tell the truth, to love our enemies, to endure suffering, to keep going when we feel small and outnumbered. We live ethically now because we know how the story ends. In this module, we have faced the strangeness of Revelation, seen its primary purpose, hope, warning, and the triumph of God and the Lamb, watched the scroll opened by a slain but risen Lamb, met beasts in Babylon as images of corrupted power, looked at the new heaven and new earth as the true end of the story, explored 4 major ways to read the book, and asked how all of this shapes our lives, our choices, and our courage. Revelation is not a toy for speculation. It's a call to faithful, hopeful living in a broken world. In the next module of this course, we'll step into grace and the Western theological tradition, tracing how thinkers across the century have wrestled with the God of Scripture. I'm Sean Armstrong. Thanks for walking through the veil with me. If you've ever wished you could slow down and really walk through the life of Jesus, not just in quick sermons, but through scripture, history, and prophecy together, that's exactly why I wrote the Passion series. Hi, I'm Sean Armstrong, and the Passion series is my 5-book journey into the life, death, and enduring impact of Jesus Christ. Across these volumes, we explore the core message of Christianity and the character of God. The final days of Jesus' earthly life, step by step, from the triumphal entry all the way to the empty tomb. The mysterious world of Revelation with its symbols, its beasts, and the hope of new creation. And the Roman writings about Jesus, voices outside the Bible that will have something important to say. I've tried to bring together pastoral insight and solid historical research in a way that's accessible for pastors, students, and thoughtful lay readers who just want to go deeper. The Passion series is written to help you see Christ with fresh eyes, understand what he has done, and remember why his story still changes lives today. You can find the Passion series in paperback and Kindle on Amazon and Google Play. Just search for The Passion Series Sean Armstrong, or follow the link in the description. If you're ready to go beyond surface level faith, I'd love for you to take the journey with me.